Do 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 do. So take down, I'm gonna take it out. File a sorrow on you. So take down, I'm gonna take it out. Structuring in there too. I see that you're causing fraud and AML is screwed. I don't know what to say. It's a takedown. Dun, 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 dun. So yes, coding missions episode 2 and wearing all black just like the Huntrix when they're having takedown because here at KPMG I am doing something very important in terms of financial security is doing the takedown on Rumi. That's right, more than just hiding away from she being a demon and also in honor MLK, truly showing the content of a character rather than just the color of the demon patterns on his skin. This is why this MLK episode is truly a takedown on Rumi, and it shows that when we really want to judge others, we want to judge them based on the actions they do, such as structuring for funds, and not just only the color of their skin. And of course, as a BU alumni, I'm a biased MLK fan, so yeah. Anyway, tonight's episode is all about dealing with Rumi filing a SAR narrative, and more importantly, using Python to understand some very KPMG based AML terms. Without further ado, here's the episode tonight. So the episode begins with figuring out what Rumi has been doing wrong. So she's of course in the fictional Huntrix Tower in the Lotte area in 300 Olympic Road, Singapore, Seoul, Korean. My Korean pronunciation is very bad, not because my Chinese. Even my GF miss, I'm not much of a Koreaphobe, so if I do mispronounce the Korean, any Korean viewers, please correct me in the comments. Of course, she is a demon hunter employed by Huntrix. She is pretty young. She's about now 25-ish, I guess, 23, 24 last year in a movie. She does have the Huntrix Bank customer information. By the way, this is all fake. This is all meant to be part of the episode. It's actually not really the K-pop Demon Hunter information. And she has a very interesting account with the DDA checking, and she has no prior stars being filed. So on Rumi, she has data checking. She has 4 alerted events as 0 degrees of service, 0 degrees of separation. It's due for work every day. Now it's senior analyst with KPMG. Basically, make some Excel files, run some cases, figure out what's been going on with some cases, and then use Python and some analytics and cloud coding to solve the problem. So all the good stuff I've been doing computer science analytics has been for this KPMG job. Event details. So you can see Rumi has been doing some clear structuring. She's been doing the same day over 10K in cash, which is blatantly a CTR violation at the very least. And she's been doing it 4 times. And Homegirl just been basically fighting her own demons 4 times in a row. I'm like, man, if GF or anybody else I'd be seeing is acting like this, we'd not be leaving to companionship. Absolutely trust your partners and finances. Don't do what Rumi's doing. Even Dave Ramsey and Jordan Pierce would not agree with this. It's just bad. It's just bad form of financial service, and it's just not great. It's just not, honeymoon behavior. So here are the transactions from Rumi. As you can see, she has quite a few transactions. So to understand how we do the process, we first go back to event details and find out that she has structuring for several of these. For example, she has structuring for the 7,000, the 9,800, the 10,000, the 7,777, the 4,500, and the 8,000, and the 5,000 and 6,000. So she has almost 58K total amount being alerted for structuring. So you can see the structuring is pretty significant from Rumi that she wanted to first do a little structuring in May. She had ACH and ATM cash deposit. So of course, the funds that she has basically nearly nearly weekly Huntrix Demon Hunter payroll. This is on Huntrix World. They get paid more than us. They basically get paid weekly, not bi-weekly. But you can see this blatant structuring. She's basically structuring, giving her money and layering it to her, friend Jinu, the lead Saja boy from Huntrix Bank to Saja Boy's bank. And she's been telling him to remove the demon marks. So you can see some of these transition notes are basically how demon hunters would write their millennial speak. So you can see sometimes transactions are very fun in AML tracking. And furthermore, to use another example of structuring, Rumi does this again, of course, in June with this time to Jinu, her friend, and also her fellow Huntrix member Zoe. And this is essentially, the FC cash deposit teller to ATM cash deposit, another form of structuring with Zoe. So you can see Rumi does this thing pretty frequently, a lot, and it does happens 4 times in a row. So to make the episode a little bit sweeter to understand, I'm going to highlight actually the cases of structuring. And you always want to do this when you're in the internal systems for AML. For example, in Bank of America or other type of engagements, you do stuff like that. It's just understanding the principles of the job. So I'm now going to just label all the parts that I think Rumi has been structuring at. And these should be the ones. So she's been structuring in May, June, August, and then October. Open source research, we basically do this to find her email address, phone, negative news. Support documents, not much except for maybe K-pop Demon Hunter accusing Rumi of being a demon and structurer, narrative, and that's about it. So, this is how we write the star narrative on Rumi. So here's the star we would file on Rumi from K-pop Demon Hunter if she was actually legitimately a customer that is being filed on. So an automated monitoring alert from Huntrix ISS, internal software system, flagged 4 cash deposits of $7,000, $10,000, $4,500, $5,000 on a client Rumi from Huntrix personal checking account totaling 26,500 between May 16, 2025 and October 29, 2025. All of these large cash deposits are sent to beneficiaries Jinu from Saja Boys, Celine, Sunshine Sisters leader, and her mentor Huntrix, Mira and Zoe from Huntrix, into K-pop Demon Hunters Huntrix Banks, Sunshine Sisters Bank, and Saja Boys Bank. Between May 16, 2025 and October 29th, 2025, the activity involved $142,577 for credit and $27,666 for debit for a grand total of $170,000, $423. The SAR is being filed on Rumi and on behalf of Huntrix for structuring between the 4 cash deposits with no apparent economic, business, or lawful purpose. A review of Rumi's account was made into Huntrix ISS internal records for those 4 large cash deposits. The timing of the cash deposits is inconsistent with the client profile, and these cash deposits are all made within the same day between Rumi's Huntrix local ATM and Jinu's Saja Boys Bank FC cash deposit. By the way, FC is a federal credit for bank speak. Also, as a teller, Jinu once confirmed to client Rumi that she was attempting to structure by having a previous take back of $10,000 reduced to $7,777. These cash deposits are considered suspicious because they are sent to different individuals from both Huntrix and Saja Boys with vague and inconsistent transition lines. Jinu, please remove demo marks, please. Celine, help me, please. How is done, done, done? We're gonna be golden as pertinent examples. Here are the following examples that show structuring on Rumi's behalf for the 4 large cash deposits in Rumi's personal checking account. And here are the examples I talked about earlier in the episode. The inflows are incoming ACH cash deposits for Rumi's near weekly payroll as a demon hunter for Huntrix, an ATM cash deposit for personal purchases with her manager Bobby, her Huntrix co-workers Zoe and Mira, mentor Celine, an FC cash deposit to Taylor Genu and his coworker Baby Saja from Saja Boys, and 4 liter transactions. The cash outflows are personal debit card purchases of Huntrix food, clothing, stage performance, charity, and reimbursement for Huntrix related accidents, and wire, um, OTM, peer-to-peer, large wire transfers for honeymoon related cruises, therapy, and holiday events. Rumi, date of birth October 23rd, 2001, is the lead demon hunter in Huntrix from K-pop Demon Hunters and lives in Seoul, Korea area. She has a personal DDA checking account with account number given. No prior SAR has been filed on Rumi. Open source research verifying any pertinent information or negative news. This SAR has been filed on Rumi for structuring. This is a true takedown. So am I telling all this stuff from my work? Well, actually loosely based from my work. Well, because there is a beauty of it. The beauty is that you can actually apply Python. That's right. It's not just only a bunch of narratives for AML and analytics and the new work I have at KPMG. We can apply Python to AML structuring stuff. And here we go. This is where it gets fun. So we finally get a Python program that I wrote and have test cases for. So we got the K-pop Demon Hunters Rumi ACH takedown, and we have some coding modules to determine if AML violations require a SAR, which is a suspicious activity report, a CTR, a currency transaction report, and determine which cases are filed for SAR, including look back date 120 days or oldest first transaction for any AML investigation. The suspect is not ready for the takedown, is not feeling room for a world of pain. So let me first show you that this code does indeed work. I run all the test cases, all 21 tests. TDD looks good. So first module is basically determine SAR or no SAR, and we have 3 main function variables. It's a function variable I wrote myself from loosely based of KPMG work. So you have transaction amount, the suspect identified or not identified, and then the reason to file the SAR. And basically, if the amount is about $5,000 and the suspect is identified, we then determine if it's structuring or unknown source of funds, 2 main reasons to basically file the SAR. And then we file the SAR. Otherwise, it's $5,000, then we do not file a SAR because it's not over 5,000. Else, if the suspect is not identified, but regardless, the amount is more than 25,000, then we do file the structuring SAR again. Otherwise, we don't. And this is from FinCEN, by the way. And of course, if you give me the wrong valid number, it's invalid valid error. So this is a really good function showing great object-oriented design and also how we can use AML to write analytical conditionals to help determine cases. All right, module 2. This one determines whether a currency transaction report, which is not the same as a SAR, that's only for the 10K exceeding, which is actually a BSA violation if you follow the SAR form. Should be filed based on a list of customer transactions. And this is the 3 conditions of the CTR. A CTR is required if a single cash transaction, deposit or withdrawal exceeds $10,000. The total of all cash transactions in a single business day exceeds $10,000. Or transactions must be having an amount greater than 0 to be considered. You cannot have negative transaction. It basically returns you the daily totals that determine whether you should file a CTR or not. So for each transaction in transactions, we determine all the positive amount, make sure any transaction is over 10,000 to file the CTR. Great. If you do, aggregate that. If you don't, move on. And then essentially, if we have every aggregation exceeding $10,000 for a single day, you return true immediately. And that's your function for file CTR. This one's important, the look back date. Get effective transaction look back date. So this one is going to require a little bit of math, actually. Date calculation math. So if you do not mind, I have a calculator for this particular work. All right. Not quite what I want here, but I'm gonna try to figure this out. All right, anyways, the look back date is pretty simple to calculate. So let's say, for example, you have a look back, you have a date of a transaction is from Halloween, 10/31/2025. So look back date, which is 120 days prior to the first thing, is going to be, let's see what I got from my own personal account. So that'd be a Thursday on July 3rd, 2025, or 07/03/2025. So, however, we still have a transaction from Zoe, I don't know, Ramyong or something, right? And the transaction from Zoe has been alerted for structuring as well, and it's actually from 06/16/2025, Father's Day. So we need to extend the new look back date to include that one. So it's actually now 06/2025. So eventually the new review date in total is going to be 06/016/2025, all the way back to Halloween. And that's how you basically calculate the look back date here. So that's the example it's giving in the code to show you guys how to calculate look back date for AML. So if not transactions, return empty list. Otherwise, we use the strp time, the strip time, to remove the date string and format it in year, month, and date format. New datetime parse into string. And then we look at the look back date is just the time delta, subtract the 120 days. We have a list of effective dates for each transaction string transactions. We do strip time again to make sure we have the date time being in proper format. If the transaction date loaded in look back date, you append it as effective date. And this is actually a string strft time, which I don't know string format time, which basically formats it back to year, month, and date. And otherwise, you just append the effective dates. And this will absolutely help you with any AML case with Python to understand look back date. Now, this is the easy version. There are some future work I'm doing right now at work, actually. The future work of extended look back time, shortened look back time, and even split. That'll be in a future episode because it's more complicated, and that'll get into more complicated AML structures or algorithms. But for this episode only, we're looking at the very simple order of the 120 look back dates or the first transaction. And finally, we have a star determinant function, which basically determines from the cases we're given, can we know if it's a SAR case already? This is basically for prior case reasons. I already basically given a list of SARs hard-coded from MLC, management cases. And essentially, if the case is none or SAR 0 is length is 0, return 0. Otherwise, for case in case, if case isn't SAR, you append the SAR, you append the case to list SAR, you have the sentinel boolean turn to true. Otherwise, you continue from Python to look for the queue. So essentially, it's a linear search through the queue, more or less, and then return the case. And the unit tests are pretty simple. You just have a setup for SAR and no SAR, and we use assert true, assert false in Python. Similar to almost like to assert equals in Java or even other type of assertions. So the keyword assert in any programming language is essentially test. Asserting means do we know if it's true or not true? If it is true, great, you pass the test. Otherwise, boo, you fail. And you can see I basically gave a bunch of tests that, check for invalid negative cases, all that other good stuff. So we will go over TDD more carefully later in Coding Mission Season 2, but it's like a general case of how we use test cases to understand these results. And do not worry, I will be posting this on my Git. This will be public on my GitHub. This example of K-pop Demon Hunters AML Python coding. So with that being said, this pretty much ends the episode, more or less. There's one more thing I would like to point out, and that is actually in an Excel file. So I'll point out one more thing before we leave the episode tonight. Is this Excel file. So you see I have all the accumulated results, right? So there's something that's really cool in Excel called a pivot table. So we can create a pivot table right here in Excel. And we add in the values, the rows, which is the credit, add in the columns, which is the debit, and then we can also actually so add the rows with credit and debit actually. Yes. Let me remove this, add the debit as well. That's good. And then we can also add for columns, essentially the date. That way we have a nice aggregation of what's going on with each date. So we're going to remove the debit from rows and add debit here instead. That way you know the debit from each day and also the credit. So you can do a little comparison in a pivot table. In addition to pivot table, you can also insert a chart, which we'll do right now. And this chart isn't looking very great, so I'm going to change it from a line chart to a bar chart. So you can see that we have a lot of activity spent from Rumi over here, and not a whole lot spent over here. So that's it from that chart. And finally, we have um, a Power BI app to show what's going on with Rumi structuring. So this is the K-pop Demon Hunters ACH from Power BI. So visualization that shows that she did most of her damage or structuring in October, which is not surprising because Rumi was crashing out hard at her demon stuff. And she was doing the least of her structuring in the holiday months because she basically was chilling and trying to hunt down Genu. And then the groups were we basically grouped by the credits and the debits, which we do for, of course, AML purposes. And the final viz shows that basically the structuring happened in every single instance of Rumi having a holiday. For example, this must be, Mother's Day, dealing with her situation with Celine. This must be Father's Day, dealing with her potential spoiler for K-pop Demon Hunters 2, Father Guima, which she allegedly killed the spirit of in K-pop Demon Hunters original. And then, of course, to make it more platinum, which is the follow-up song from Golden, FYI, she definitely did a lot more structuring in August, which sucks because it's my birth month. I like August. And of course, finally, she did structuring when she was basically having her down bad moment before, what it sounds like in the movie in October. So overall, Rumi was not being a good girl. She was structuring, she was doing bad stuff. Shame on her. She was messing with AML too much. But you guys are being great people, liking, subscribing to content, really giving me great advice on YouTube to get better, and also just really letting me share what I learn at work every day and how it applies to analytics and Python and programming. And of course, for episode 3, we're gonna get into what I talked about, GitHub. And this will be basically similar to how it's done, is how it's get. And that will finally get to version controlling and a bunch of other more advanced analytic topics. With that being said, guys, I'm so happy to share the episode tonight. And more importantly, let's hope that you guys don't actually end up in a situation yourselves with with star filing, and avoid getting taken down. So make sure your financials are in order, guys. Don't do stuff like Rumi did. Don't do things that make your finances go sus. With that being said, guys, like and subscribe. Have a good MLK weekend.